Oi, tudo bem? Hi, this is Ellie from PortugueseWithEllie.com, and today, after watching this short video lesson, you'll understand and know how to use Saber and Conhecer in Portuguese, because they are like a little bit confusing and sometimes you can use them interchangeably. So this is what you're going to learn now. But before you forget, if you're here, subscribe. If you are already subscribed, like this video. And if you think this video has been useful and you have some questions, leave a comment in the comment section. These actions help me so much. I think you can imagine how helpful this is. So thank you, and let's continue. And sometimes I think it's very frustrating when you have two words in Portuguese, for example, for one single verb in English, because we think too long, and when we finally make up our minds, we forget what we wanted to say because we cannot really decide what word we want to use. And that's what happens with saber and conhecer in Portuguese. But right now, we can just dispel that very quickly. Yes, very quickly. Now, let's take a look at how you can use those verbs. For example, the first thing you have to know is that saber is used when you want to talk about knowing facts and information. For example, I just learned a good friend is getting married, or Felix and Janice don't know where they left their baby, and Martha can't help her boyfriend because she doesn't know where his favorite doohickey is sold. These are pieces of information. That's the common thread here. And in this situation, you use the verb saber. For example, você sabe qual é a capital do Brasil? Você sabe qual é a capital do Brasil? Me desculpe, eu realmente não sei onde fica essa loja. Me desculpe, eu realmente não sei onde fica essa loja. Onde você soube disso? Onde você soube disso? And here, the third example, you see, soube. It's the past tense and it's being used as learn, as in learn a piece of news, learn a piece of information. That's a very, very common use of the verb saber in Portuguese. And a second and very common use of saber in Portuguese is when, for example, you're driving or you're riding a motorcycle, it stops, it doesn't work anymore, and then you want to fix it. You say, I can manage to fix it. And when we are talking about practical knowledge, like knowing how to do something, being able to manage to do something, you can use also saber. For example, acho que sei fazer esta receita. Acho que sei fazer esta receita. Você sabe consertar este rádio? Você sabe consertar este rádio? Me desculpe, não sei falar alemão. Me desculpe, não sei falar alemão. Of course, there are some differences when you want to say, for example, poder and saber. And if you want to know more, you can check the supporting article in the description below in this video. Now, just imagine, like, grandfather here is meeting a new friend, and he's like, "Oh, nice to meet you. I really like that. Like, it's very interesting to see that you have so many interesting opinions. So nice to meet you." In that situation, grandpa would use conhecer. It's a little bit different. But conhecer doesn't need to be used only with people, like meet someone new. You also can kind of meet a new town or a new city or a new place or a new technology. It's also possible because conhecer is used when you make acquaintance. There is this acquaintanceship or familiarity that develops with the act of meeting or knowing someone. For example, você conhece fulano? Você conhece fulano? Ainda não conheço Nova York. É uma cidade muito bonita? Ainda não conheço Nova York. É uma cidade muito bonita? Conhecer is also used, for example, when you want to say, I've never been to New York, for example. You would say, I don't know New York. Não conheço Nova York. Or, I've never heard this song. Eu não conheço essa música. This is also used for to know, to have heard, to have familiarity or acquaintanceship with something. But then you might say, hey, but I've heard my Brazilian friends, my Brazilian um, colleagues, maybe husband, maybe wife, saying, sabe fulano? But in this case, shouldn't they say, conhece o fulano? Well, that's a very good question. And when we are talking about people, and then you say, você sabe o fulano? Você conhece o fulano? There is a difference in the perspective of the information here. When you say, você sabe o Mário? Ganhou na loteria. Here, I don't want really to know whether you have familiarity with Mario, if you have this acquaintance with him. I just want to know whether you remember actually that this person exists. So this person becomes a piece of information. But if I say, você conhece o Mário? Ele é meu primo. Você conhece o Mário? Ele é meu primo. Here, the most important thing is the familiarity or acquaintanceship that you should have with this person, Mario, and I really want to know that. So, someone becomes a piece of information, their existence, or someone is a person you want to know whether the person has familiarity with. It's a little bit confusing. There are more examples, or there is a more detailed discussion in the supporting article that you'll find in the video description below. But if you have any questions, leave it in the comments. I really like to see your questions there. And now, oh, that's another situation where you can use either saber or conhecer. Like you have a terrible back pain, and then you want to ask your friends, do you know of any good medicine? And when you say, do you know of any good medicine, or for back pain, for example, I don't know if you also have the sensation, but I, as an ESL speaker, I speak English as a second language. It's not my first language. When I hear, do you know of any good medicine? It's kind of implied that you know others, but I want you to know a specific one, or I want to know whether you know a specific one. So it implies the knowledge of others among a group, for example. Do you know of any good medicine? And that's the same thing in Portuguese. And when you use the verb saber in this um, meaning, with this meaning, you have to use de, saber de, as in the example. Você conhece um bom remédio para dor nas costas? Você conhece um bom remédio para dor nas costas? Você sabe de um bom remédio para dor nas costas? Você sabe de um bom remédio para dor nas costas? That has the same meaning, and it's one of the situations where you can use either conhecer or saber, but with a preposition here. Now, quick takeaways. It's always important to see what you just studied because it helps consolidate all the knowledge you have. And the takeaways I want you to have from this video is that one, we make a distinction here in Brazil between a piece of information or a fact, right? And the example is in the first sentence, eu sei onde fica isso, like I have the knowledge where it is, and having acquaintanceship with someone or something, which can be found in the second example. Eu conheço a Pamela. Eu conheço a Pamela. And we also know that the verb saber is used when talking about having a practical knowledge that can be applied somehow. And that's what you see in the third example. Eu sei falar português. Eu sei falar português. And there's this last expression I want to give you because I hear my American friends, my English speaking friends actually, not only the American ones, but when they say, oh, I learned the news, and they say, eu aprendi. No, you didn't learn that way. It's like when you aprendi, when there is aprender involved, there is purposeful study, and you wanted to know that. But if it comes to you like without your knowing or without your looking for it, it's like luck, right? So you learn the news, você fica sabendo das notícias. And now, if you haven't yet done that, subscribe. You help me so much. Or leave a comment, a question, throw a stone at me, do something. But subscribe, comment, and like this video. And at last, if you want to see some more, you can visit www.portuguesewithali.com and you'll find so many articles there. We have more than 100 articles on Portuguese grammar, vocabulary, and help that you will not find elsewhere. Muito obrigado e até a próxima. Tchau!